Greetings, peeps of the interwebs. So as I'm sure you all have figured out by the title of this video and have heard from the news, that Marvel just recently confirmed that, after Infinity War and Avengers 4, whatever it's titled, whether it be Infinity War Part 2 or, whatever, that basically the deal that they worked out with Sony in sharing Spider-Man runs up. And a lot of people, understandably so, are kind of freaking out because we rejoiced, we were so happy when Spider-Man finally came back home to Marvel because, we all know how Sony has handled Spider-Man. Very hit or miss. But again, hopefully with this video, I'm going to kind of elaborate a little bit more on this deal just from what I know. And to hopefully reassure people a little bit more. Because first off, yes, it does kind of suck that the deal that they worked out, because I feel like a lot of people are under the assumption that once Sony and Marvel worked out a deal, it was, this deal was solid, it was going to last until the end of times. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. And from a business standpoint, it was smart to not work out a deal where they both share the rights forever. Because, if on the off chance that Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't do well both financially or critically, then both companies have a way out. Marvel can be like, hey, we tried, so here you go, you can have it back and do whatever you want. Or Sony, very, very unlikely, would kind of be like, well, if the both of us can't do it, then let's cut our losses. And either try to reboot Spider-Man again, or just give the rights back to Marvel entirely, because they're kind of like, look, 3 strikes, we're out. But that's very unlikely, just because Spider-Man's so popular that even if they did screw up Spider-Man Homecoming, which seems unlikely, they would still hold on to the rights because, again, they can always reboot and, help rejuvenate the franchise like they seem to be doing now. And from the get-go, and I don't know if, when they mentioned the deal that they were very clear with the deal and like how it worked out, but more or less from the get-go, they said that yes, we're going to share the Spider-Man, he's going to pop up in Civil War, and he's going to have at least one, a couple solo movies in the MCU. And there was some debate on whether he'd show up in Infinity War, but a lot of people speculated and kind of assumed that, yeah, he'd show up in Infinity War because he had, with the deal, it was a 6-picture deal sharing Spider-Man with Tom Holland. So he appeared in Civil War, which was one appearance of the 6. Homecoming, which is number 2. He's going to show up in Infinity War and Avengers 4, and the sequel to Homecoming. And then the 6th one, I imagine, will probably be like another appearance, like a cameo or a small role like in Civil War. Because they have both, Sony and Marvel both said that after the sequel to Homecoming, then that's when the deal is up. Which is a little odd that they didn't want to do this whole Spider-Man trilogy. But, who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe they do plan on doing a Spider-Man trilogy, and that's where that 6th film comes in. This is just from what I've heard. So, as usual with these kind of videos, take it with a grain of salt. And I'm sure you can find other people, like videos or just articles that are far more in the know than I am. So, this is just kind of, again, based off what I know and what I've heard. So, a lot of people last month, because I think it was at CinemaCon, Amy Pascal, one of the head honchos at Sony, basically said the same thing. She was like, hey, this event of sharing, kind of 2 studios coming together is unprecedented. It may never happen again. And again, people were kind of flipping out because they're like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean Spider-Man's gonna leave the MCU and all that stuff? Which, yes, it's very possible. And again, Marvel just confirmed it. It's like, yeah, we had a 6-picture deal. We'll see where it goes. So they're just stating facts. However, just based off what people, just the reaction to Tom Holland as Spider-Man in Civil War, and from what we've seen of the trailers in Spider-Man Homecoming, it seems like he's very well received. And in my personal opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, Tom Holland so far, just again based off Civil War, and based off what we've seen in the trailers for Spider-Man Homecoming, he seems to be the best of both worlds. He seems to be that really good balance between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, whereas Tobey Maguire, in my opinion, was a great Peter Parker and a decent Spider-Man, whereas Andrew Garfield was the complete opposite. Where he was a really good Spider-Man, he kind of had that, kind of wise-ass, quippy one-liners and stuff like that, but he just felt too cool to be Peter Parker, that kind of nerdy, typical nerdy guy. Whereas, again, so far it seems like Tom Holland kind of has that good balance of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And also, it's just a mutually beneficial, it's a win-win situation for both Sony and Marvel to share Spider-Man, because both companies are going to make money off of this. So it's kind of like, and again, this is all dependent on, we'll probably get a better idea of them renewing this contract after Spider-Man Homecoming, which I'm pretty sure will do well financially and probably critically, because it's an MCU movie, and even the weaker MCU movies are still fairly well critically received. Even the, kind of mediocre ones, critics are like, yeah, it's fun, it's enjoyable. They may not say, oh, it's the best MCU movie so far, it's great. They'll just be like, it's a fun, enjoyable popcorn movie. Just go have fun. But, again, that's what a lot of these blockbuster movies are anyways, so I think, I guess worst case scenario, just based off, the track record of Marvel, worst case scenario, Spider-Man Homecoming may not be the best movie in the MCU, may not be the best Spider-Man movie, but it'll at least be fun and entertaining, and again, it'll make money. So, it just seems like a mutual beneficial deal, where again, it's a win-win situation. Tom Holland gets skyrocketed into fandom. Marvel makes money off of Spider-Man. Sony makes money off Spider-Man. So more than likely, after the 6-picture deal, they'll renegotiate and figure out another contract. Whether it be another 6-film deal, 2-film deal, 3, who knows. I imagine a lot of it will also depend on Tom Holland as well, because he's still relatively unknown. Most people, if you see a picture of him, you're like, oh, that's the guy from Spider-Man. But that's probably about it. I'd say even a lot of people probably don't even know his name is Tom Holland. They're like, that kid from Civil War who played Spider-Man. So, depending on how famous he gets between now and Avengers 4, he'll probably ask for a bigger price, as he should, because that's just good. You want to market yourself well. So, a lot of it depends on that, and again, depending on how Spider-Man Homecoming does, the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, and his other appearances in the MCU. But, again, like I said, track record so far has been proven pretty strong, and Sony seems like, overall, they're kind of just letting Marvel handle it, because that's kind of where they screwed up in Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they're getting a little too cocky, they're trying to shove too much things at once, trying to build a universe type deal, and it just fell flat. Whereas with Marvel, they've already got, again, proven track record, so it almost seems like Sony are like, yeah, we'll help you finance the movie, we'll help you produce and all that stuff, but you got this. Obviously, we'll still kind of give input and see, what you can and can't do, but you got this. Just give us some of that Marvel money when the movie comes out. However, but again, hopefully this reassured people, because again, I would say there's a really good shot, like well over 50% chance that they will renegotiate a contract and, again, do like another 3 Spider-Man films at least, would be my guess, just judging so far. But there is some apprehension, a little bit of cause of concern for me personally, because even though there is that slight chance that after the 6-picture deal, Marvel are kind of like, well, hey, we did really good with Spider-Man, but we don't necessarily need him, because Marvel proved they don't need their heavy hitter characters like Spider-Man, the X-Men, Fantastic Four. A lot of those other characters, I mean, arguably, a lot of the characters that they started off with, like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, yeah, comic book readers, we knew who they were, but your average person, and even in the comic books, were kind of like B, C level characters. Not to say that they're bad characters by any means, they're just notoriety and all that stuff just couldn't compare to X-Men and Fantastic Four, Spider-Man and all that stuff. So, the fact that they were able to build such a massive franchise off these lesser-known characters that are now synonymous with, synonymous with Marvel. I mean, you look at comic book sales, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, all those people, they're now some of the top sellers in Marvel. Whereas before, the sales were doing good enough to keep the, stories afloat, and you had some really good stories and maybe some not so good ones. But overall, they just weren't as top billing as what they are now. So it could be one of those things where Marvel is like, well, we had a good run in Spider-Man, but we don't need him. But I'd say more than likely, they're kind of like, yeah, we don't need him, but we like this money we're getting, so yeah, let's keep this going. And probably the more likely, if, again, one of the two studios decides they don't need each other, I'd say more than likely it'll probably be Sony. Because here's an analogy that I will compare the Spider-Man franchise just in both incarnations and this new one is... So the first, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, imagine the first movie is a swimmer. Like, they're like a professional swimmer, they're really good, and that first movie was kind of like their first big win in like a race, and they're kind of like, yeah, I did really good, and people are like, oh wow, we gotta keep their eye on this guy. He's really good. And then the second Spider-Man movie, which I would say is by far the best Spider-Man movie and even one of the best comic book films. That comes out and people are like, damn, this dude could go Olympics. He could go to the Olympics. He's like almost on that level. But then by Spider-Man 3, he just, for whatever reason, something went wrong. He maybe like got into like hard drugs and just went off the rails on some kind of crazy train drug binge and screwed his life up and didn't go to the Olympics, and we got Spider-Man 3. Then a few years passed, he started to sober up, started to get his life back together. And that's when we get Amazing Spider-Man 1. He's not quite like at the peak he was in, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, he was kind of getting up to that Olympic level, but he's sobered up, he's made some good life decisions, he's gotten back in shape, and people have faith again. They're kind of like, hey, he's back. But then Amazing Spider-Man 2 comes along, and for whatever reason, he gets on that drug binge again, starts making poor decisions, and we're just kind of like, ugh, what happened? And again, a few years pass by, and then that's when good old MCU comes along. It's kind of like, hey man, you had such potential. What went wrong? But then starts to guide Spider-Man. It's kind of like, all right, look, yeah, you made some terrible decisions, but you still got some juice left in you. People still rooting for you. You can do good. Let's help you out. So Marvel starts training Spider-Man, like in the little kiddie pool at first, not like an Olympic-sized pool, but just like, they give him floaties. They're kind of like, look, cut the drugs, cut all the dumb, stupid stuff. You don't need all these this entourage, like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they're just shoving all these characters and plot points and stuff like that. They're like, you don't need that. You don't need it. Just focus on you, being you. And then we get Tom Holland Spider-Man in Civil War. We're just, he's not there a whole lot, but you can tell he's really working hard, and he's got a lot of promise. This kid, he's coming at you hard. He's coming at you strong, and you're kind of like, yes, I think he's got another shot at doing this. So right now, I think it's kind of like the equivalent of he's still not even like on that good level. We'll have to wait until Spider-Man Homecoming, but he's on floaties, where, he's kind of dog pedaling, which, well, maybe above dog pedaling. That was kind of Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he was flopping all around, dog paddling, trying to stay afloat, and he just couldn't, because all those drugs and fast food or something gained a lot of weight, and just, again, terrible life decisions. Whereas now Marvel, they're coaching him, they've got him on a good, diet, and he's back in shape. Things are looking good. Spider-Man Homecoming comes along, and if it crushes, which I do think it will, both financially and critically, then that's, I think, when, both Marvel and Sony are like, yes, we cracked this, we got it, we're good. But, again, my concern is after the 6-picture deal, and again, Spider-Man Tom Holland becomes even more and more popular, he's going for that Olympic gold medal like he so wanted back in the day, but screwed up. I think Sony might get a little confident, a little too cocky, and be like, you got this, kid! You're ours again! Go for gold! When he shouldn't go for gold. Like, he should just kind of just keep working at it. and maybe go for silver first or bronze. Like build up a good reputation or a better reputation, then go for gold with both Sony and Marvel. So that's my cause for concern, is that after the six-picture deal, Tom Holland Spider-Man, that kind of co-franchise becomes popular enough that, again, Sony makes the same mistakes that they've made before, where they just get too cocky and are kind of like, we got this! Shove everything in at once! We gotta have Venom in there! We gotta have Silver Sable and Black Cat and all this other stuff that sure sounds cool and would potentially work, maybe, but at the same time, it causes a whole big ordeal, because you can't just bring Tom Holland Spider-Man into this new franchise that they're trying to build with Venom and, again, Black Cat, Silver Sable, especially with an R-rated Venom movie. The tone that they've established with Tom Holland, it'd be weird to see him fight Venom, like an R-rated, but presumably brutal, like kind of horror-esque Venom, where he's going around, killing people left and right. Which sounds cool, but again, if you're trying to bring this already pre-existing Spider-Man into this new franchise, that's just going to conflict so badly with the MCU, because then how are they going to explain that whatever he did in the MCU either didn't happen, or, I don't know, they're going to have to do some kind of, bullshit explanation, just kind of oh, he jumped through a dimension, now he's in, another Earth, whatever. Which, if it was another character, like, say, a Doctor Strange, that would work, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's what he does. He goes to different dimensions and parallel universes. Cool. That doesn't work as well with Spider-Man. Or, if, they once the six-picture deal with Tom Holland Spider-Man runs up, and they do want to bring Spider-Man back to Sony, they can reboot him again, but at that point, I think people will just be so tired of Spider-Man, because this will be, the fourth time. We've had Spider-Man 3 times. Even if the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are great, it's just kind of do we need another Spider-Man? Can we not just keep him? So that's the cause of concern, and I just think the best thing to do is keep working that deal out with Marvel, to keep Peter Parker, Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU, and just keep getting that Marvel money for Sony. And if Sony are just so dead set on bringing a new Spider-Man into their Venom, this new kind of cinematic universe that they want to build of basically Spider-Man characters, just bring in Miles Morales, or one of the other people that took over for Spider-Man, Kane, or my mind's gone blank on some of the other, something Riley. I forget the names of them because I'm not super familiar with the other Spider-Man. But basically, the other people who have taken up the mantle of Spider-Man, whether it be a clone of Peter Parker or, again, Miles Morales, which I think that would be the best bet, because they already have an animated film coming out, I believe, in December, which I'd be willing to bet this is Sony kind of dipping their feet in the water, being like, hey, if we do this animated film, which is on a much lower budget and less risks, let's see how well received it is. And if it does really well, both financially and critically, and people have an interest in a Miles Morales movie, it could be Sony being like, okay, the animated film did well, to both, again, obviously the comic book fans and even casual fans, which this is the brand new Spider-Man. They like him. They have fully embraced him. Let's take the plunge and take Miles Morales and put him into live action and have him go up against this rated R Venom character, which will still be a little odd, because even though I haven't read any Miles Morales Spider-Man comics, I still just tonally it'll be a little odd, but I just think that's the best way to go about it. If they are, again, just dead set on bringing a Spider-Man into this new cinematic universe they want to build with Venom, Silver Sable, Black Cat, and these other Spider-Man rogues characters, or supporting characters. But that's just my opinion. Again, I have no inkling as to the, exact details on all this stuff. So as I've said before, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not in the know like other people. This is kind of more or less just my opinions on the whole Sony Marvel deal and the kind of weird situation that this could go later on down the road. But that's pretty much that pretty much wraps up this video. Hopefully you all have enjoyed, and as always, like us on Facebook at Pacey Pill Productions, get news and updates and all things going on with the channel and other things adjacent to the channel, like some of the other podcasts and projects we got going on. Same thing with Twitter. Follow us on at Pacey Pill Pro. Vote on our Pacey Pill polls to kind of give us feedback on or topic ideas for the next podcast we want to do, or videos and all that stuff. You can follow me at Irishman Jake, my own personal Twitter. Just, see what I'm up to, or, again, suggest things, videos, do whatever. And you can also check out my new podcast that I started up fairly recently, Shogun's Gateway to Anime, which is a podcast that I started with my friend Will. It's all about anime. Hopefully we'll have episode 3 up, I don't know, maybe in the next week or so. So I'll leave links in the description below to find all that stuff if that takes your fancy. And then I also did a guest spot on the Joy Sandwich podcast fairly recently, talking all things Lord of the Rings, which I believe that episode, from what I gather, will be up sometime soon, maybe towards the late April or early May. So, keep an eye on that. Go ahead and check out some Joy Sandwich podcasts. It's pretty good stuff. And yeah, that wraps up this video. So hopefully you all have enjoyed, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and share with your friends. Until next time, everyone, cheers.